A relic of the old world. Ready your men, Captain. We will only get one chance.
Hey, welcome to the first episode of Snarkcade, where we dive into games, break them apart, and uncover what makes them unforgettable, or sometimes forgettable. We're talking about Path of Exile 2, a game that's either going to change your life or ruin your sleep schedule. Let's get into it. For a lot of us, Path of Exile is that game you want to love, but ends up making you feel like you need a second monitor just to keep track of all the guides. The first game was complex, almost unnecessarily, but that was kind of its charm. Now, Path of Exile 2 rolls in, promising to fix some of that and make it more accessible.
And yet, bound to one another.
This sequel is basically standing at your door, saying, hey, I've got better graphics, smoother mechanics, and a revamped skill tree. Critics like the Outer Haven are calling it enjoyable and approachable, which is true if you find Excel spreadsheets approachable. But you know, baby steps. Games Radar points out that patience is still required, which checks out if you're jumping into Path of Exile 2, you're committing to the grind. The game does throw you a few bones, though. The updated visuals and more streamlined mechanics. And Eurogamer even said it feels like a step forward, without dumbing things down. So yeah, it's still Path of Exile, but now it's got training wheels, sort of. The moment you dive in, you're hit with that classic dark fantasy vibe. GamePro calls the combat fun and addictive, and they're not wrong. From the first fight, it's clear that Grinding Gear Games knows how to make you feel powerful, even if you're just clicking furiously on skeletons. But let's not pretend it's all smooth sailing. Critics like Games Radar and IGN mentioned some serious difficulty spikes. And yeah, those will smack you in the face when you least expect it. The game makes you work for your wins, which is both frustrating and kind of rewarding. As you get deeper, the skill tree opens up, and this is where the game flexes its depth. It's not just about picking skills, it's about creating a build that's entirely yours. That's where Path of Exile shines brightest. It's a giant puzzle, and every piece you figure out feels like a win. As someone new to ARPG, diving into Path of Exile has been a mix of excitement and learning curves. I've put in nearly 500 hours during the early access. While I can't compare it to the original, I can say that it's been an exciting and rewarding experience overall. The combat feels incredibly satisfying, and there's nothing like the thrill of clearing a massive wave of enemies, or finally, taking down a challenging boss. Customization is another highlight. With the skill tree offering endless possibilities, it's intimidating at first, but once you start to understand how builds come together, it opens up a world of creativity. The gear system, especially trading, is its own adventure, rewarding, but also incredibly time-consuming. Finally, the visuals are stunning, elevating the dark fantasy atmosphere in ways that completely immerse you in the world. For someone stepping into the franchise fresh, Path of Exile manages to be overwhelming and rewarding in equal measure. Of course, there are moments where things don't click, when your build doesn't work, or you hit a wall with a boss. It can feel like a massive roadblock. Early access balancing issues, like IGN mentioned, sometimes add to this frustration. But Path of Exile 2 is a game where persistence pays off. Each failure teaches you something new. And when you finally succeed, it's that much sweeter. The rewards aren't just loot, it's the feeling of mastery. IGN called the combat polished, and the end game looks like it's going to keep players hooked for a long time. Path of Exile is a grind, but it's the kind of grind that makes you want to come back for more. Critics are giving this game a solid thumbs up across the board. Games Radar loves the visuals, and Noob Feed talks up the combat. It's familiar, but it's also better. That's the sweet spot for a sequel, and Path of Exile nails it. When you go back to the hub, it's not just a breather. It's a moment to reflect. You're learning, you're improving, and you're gearing up for the next run. Path of Exile makes every return to the hub feel like a checkpoint in your growth. For new players, this is your chance to finally get into Path of Exile without feeling completely lost. For veterans, it's a fresh take on what you already love. Either way, it's a new beginning for everyone. Path of Exile isn't perfect yet, but it's close enough to greatness to keep you hooked. The depths, the combat, the visuals, it's everything you want in an ARPG. Critics are giving it high scores for a reason, and it's only going to get better from here. And I will also give it an 8 out of 10. Thanks for sticking around for my take on Path of Exile 2. Whether you're new to the series or a longtime fan, this game is worth your time. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more honest looks at the games we love.